Hey, it's Mr. Freaky. Since Easter's coming up, I figured I'd do something a little bit different for y'all tonight. This evening I have a tale which has been verified as true multiple times by government sources, and has spread across the internet as a result. This is the legend of the Bunny Man. After the Civil War, Fairfax, Virginia became a much more populated place, which eventually required them to build an institution for the criminally insane. Back then, the people in those kinds of places could often be pretty dangerous, so most of the people in the surrounding town didn't really want to live nearby. Due to public outrage, the institution was closed soon after. All the patients were then transferred to another institution in 1904. During this transfer, some of the patients escaped and hid in the surrounding forests. It's not really clear how they got away, but I would have to assume that was a pretty terrifying time for the town. Over the next several months, most of the patients were found, except for Marcus Lauster and Douglas Griffin. One day, while searching through a very remote part of the forest, local authorities discovered a trail of half-eaten mutilated bunnies hanging under a bridge. As the officers progressed further, they also discovered Marcus hanging from the bridge's entrance, with a handwritten note attached to his foot. It just simply said,
"You'll never find me no matter how hard you try."
Signed, the Bunny Man. This has been known as Bunny Man Bridge ever since, and according to legend, if you go down into the tunnel around midnight, the Bunny Man will hang you from the entrance, just like he did to Marcus. Mysterious deaths and supernatural phenomenon have often been connected with Bunny Man Bridge. There was a guy from Clifton, Virginia, who came upon the bridge while traveling. Then when he returned home, out of nowhere, he murdered his parents and dragged their bodies into the woods on Easter morning the next day to hang them from the bridge before killing himself. Then there was the event in 1943, where 3 young kids were found dead, dangling from the bridge as well. Their bodies were slashed open, and all of them had notes attached to their feet. They all said,
"You'll never catch the Bunny Man."
As recently as 2001, 6 local students and a guide explored the area, only to find mutilated bunny parts throughout the woods there. Then they left very quickly after hearing noises and catching a glimpse of a figure out in the forest. I wanted to delve a little further into this whole Bunny Man legend and see if there was any verifiable proof about these events happening. And believe it or not, there's actually hard evidence of creepy bunny stuff that happened in that area. You can see it online yourself. There was a police report filed in the 1970s in which Air Force Cadet Robert Bennett and his fiancée were driving near Colchester Bridge and had to slam on their brakes when they came across a man in a full-body gray suit with something that looked like bunny ears on his head. He also had a hatchet in his hand. The man in the suit then proceeded to yell at them, claiming they were trespassing on his land, before he threw the hatchet at their windshield and ran off into the woods. Though neither Bennett nor his fiancée were hurt, they were shaken by the incident. I mean, I'm not surprised. Can you imagine how freaked out you'd be if you saw a bunny do that? 2 weeks later, the now nicknamed Bunny Man by local newspapers was seen at a construction site by a security guard. The guard was checking on a new housing development and caught the Bunny Man smashing the roof supports of new houses being built with his hatchet. Upon seeing the guard, he began chopping at a porch post, saying,
"You're trespassing. If you come any closer, I'll chop off your head."
After the newspaper ran the story, the Bunny Man himself contacted local authorities and said that he did not want these new housing complexes spreading into his woods, and warning that there'd be consequences if they did. The story about this call sparked a media uproar. Stories about the Bunny Man started being reported around the country, and teens from all over Virginia began to make the trek to Colchester Bridge to investigate the Bunny Man. There were over 50 Bunny Man sightings from all over the country that year. Bodies have apparently turned up around that bridge almost every year since then. During the Halloween season now, it's traditional for kids to go on Bunny Man hunts around the bridge, which as you can assume is probably not very safe. Many have also speculated that there's a supernatural element to the Bunny Man as well, which was brought about when the police ended up finding him in the woods. They chased after him until he ended up at the bridge, then he proceeded to get up onto the track above and attempt to escape, but was hit by a passing train before the cops could apprehend him. Although his death was ruled an accident, the police that were there claimed that they heard the Bunny Man laughing as the train hit him, and some say even afterwards. So whether you think the Bunny Man is a person or a spirit, or just copycats inspired by the countless legends about the place, the end result is still the same. There is someone dressed in a bunny suit out there who has at the very least threatened violence, which to me is a terrifying thought on its own. It makes me wonder if him and those people who dressed up as clowns back in 2016 ever meet up and talk shop. It just seems so unbelievable that both those things have actually happened. So if you do decide to go out into the woods, stay safe, folks. You never really know what you might run into when you go off the grid. If you enjoyed this video, let me know and I can do more stuff like this. You can also join the Discord to discuss new topics or urban legends for me to do as well. Have a horrific Easter, everyone, and remember to stay spooky, my friends. Hey, it's Mr. Freaky. Since Easter's coming up, I figured I'd do something a little bit different for y'all tonight. This evening I have a tale which has been verified as true multiple times by government sources, and has spread across the internet as a result. This is the legend of the Bunny Man. After the Civil War, Fairfax, Virginia became a much more populated place, which eventually required them to build an institution for their